So again, this is the second reading of Time to Ban Middle School. If you have not yet read For the Gist, please go back and view video 1 or just get through it on your own. The second time through, when we're reading a new text and we're performing a close reading of something challenging, what we need to do is go through and annotate or mark up the text. The reason we do this is so that we can both understand what the difficult parts of the text are about, but also so that on our third reading, when we're asked to go back and answer questions about something or do some writing about it, we don't have to read the whole thing again. We can just go through and scan our notes to pull out the pieces that we really want. So I'm going to start from the beginning and just model for you how to do this. I'm not going to do the full article, but just the first couple chunks, and then I will release it over to you to try annotating the rest. So let's start. Time to Ban Middle School. So I see here that this first part is going to be an introduction. So let's see if there's anything that we would need to underline or highlight there. So you'll notice that I say to underline key ideas, but it's fine to highlight too. Just don't get too carried away with all the different colors that you can use. So the sheer unpleasantness of middle school has become something of a cliche. That word's kind of tough. Let's circle that. Middle school dance now stands as a shorthand for any socially awkward experience. And yet, for many of us, middle school is terrible, a time when childhood is sort of over, but even the mixed blessings of adolescence. I think we talked about that in class, but it's still kind of a tough word, have yet to fully present themselves. Now experts are beginning to propose a solution to the problem of middle school. Abolish it. Abolish. So that's a word that I'm not really quite sure of. So let's circle that. And as I look at this, there's not a ton that seems to be important enough to highlight or underline as a key experience. Nothing in the beginning. That's just sort of setting it up. I guess that this last sentence about experts are beginning to propose a solution for middle school, abolish it, it seems important, as long as you know what abolish means. And if you don't know, I'll give this to you. Abolish means to get rid of something. So you may have heard in social studies or history, the abolitionist movement was the movement to get rid of slavery, and abolish means to get rid of something, to do away with it. So that's what the first paragraph looks like for me. You may have different things, and that's okay. Annotation is personal, and it's going to be different for everyone. So moving on. So we see that we've got a chunk here that's titled It's Not Hopeless, so we want to start thinking about that. We know then that whatever this section is going to be about, the stuff that we want to underline or highlight is going to connect back to this idea of it not being hopeless for middle schoolers. So we want to keep an eye out for things that's going to back that up. So it's not hopeless. At Pacific Standard, Dana Goldstein argues that middle school students are not, in fact, so consumed with meanness and hormones that it's impossible to teach them anything. Whenever I see a bold word too, I'm probably going to circle it, just because we know that it's going to be something that is important, and if we don't know what that word means, we're going to have to look it up. And there is something that connects to It's Not Hopeless here, this idea that they are not so consumed with meanness and hormones. So this sort of refutes some of the other texts that you are familiar with, the listening guide and the audio story from 2 days ago. The science teacher said that he did think it was hopeless, but now we've got an expert saying that it's not. So we've got a couple different perspectives there. So we've got a quote then. It isn't that middle school kids are hopeless, just that middle schools are poorly designed to meet the needs of the students within them, a condition psychologists call a person-environment mismatch. The good news is that researchers already know what might work better. So this person, Dana Goldstein, seems to be pretty important, pretty well educated. She uses a lot of scientific words, but it makes me kind of need to slow down a little bit because this part is a little confusing to me. I'm going to have to go back and reread this a couple times, especially if there's going to be a question or something about that on a quiz or something later. So, however, there's a ton of stuff that seems important here. This idea that middle schools are poorly designed to meet the needs of students, and this idea of a person-environment mismatch. So that's something that I'm gonna go back on. I'm gonna circle person-environment mismatch too. I may want to look that up later to see if there's some more information that I can find on my own, but because that sort of interests me, that's something that I may want to look into on my own time. So this final paragraph of It's Not Hopeless, some of the possible improvements she provides include giving middle school teachers more specific training and better pay, and teaching kids social as well as academic skills. For example, being able to laugh at yourself. However, one is more radical: get rid of middle schools entirely. Ton of information there. This is a big paragraph. So I'm surprised by this idea that some researchers are saying that we should get rid of it entirely, especially because she says that middle school kids aren't hopeless. But again, maybe it's coming back to this idea that if we do want to teach middle school students, we're going to have to get rid of what middle school is. So that goes back to the title about, is it time to ban middle school? So here she's giving some possible improvements, so let's highlight those. So more specific training, better pay, I have no comment on that one, and teaching kids social as well as academic skills. And then one is more radical, get rid of middle schools entirely. So this is a little trick that I like to do, especially because you'll oftentimes see questions that are written like, give two of the examples that that Dana Goldstein gives as what we could do to make middle school better, or something like that. You know, that's a common question. When I see a list like this is a little trick that I do. I like to just like number it 1, 2, 3, 4, however many there are. So I'll go through, well, yeah, the first thing is specific training. Second thing is better pay. Third thing is teaching social as well as academic. And then the fourth thing is to get rid of middle schools entirely. So it's not something that you have to do, but I found that it really helps me to break down a list and to find how the ideas separate instead of like lumping them all together. I think that is where I'm going to release you to try to do the rest on your own. So as you can see, this is sort of what it looks like for me when I go through and do the beginning. So you can use that sort of as a model. If you find yourself highlighting everything, that's not going to be helpful for you. You're just going to end up reading the entire article again, and that's part of the reason why we annotate, so you don't have to read it again. So take it slow. Feel free to ask questions if you need help. Review this video, review everything that you need, and I wish you the best on this. So take your time. Don't get frustrated. This is difficult, and you'll have plenty of time to work on it. Just do your best on this, and I'll check in with you if you need help. Thank you for watching my video, and thank you for doing your best. Bye.